What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a great wide receiver football IQ quiz to test your knowledge of the position. So, before we get into this video, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you guys would like to improve your skills on the field and in the gym, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. It's over 500 plus wide receiver drills and gym exercises that wide receivers can do to improve their game. We give you the exact sets, reps, and obviously examples of each exercise and drill. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So now this video is going to be heavily emphasized on zone coverage because I know a lot of you high school, younger wide receivers, you're seeing a ton of zone coverage. How should you structure your routes against those coverages? And that's what we're going to talk about. So if you're not familiar with our quiz style videos, I'm going to show a pre-snap look. I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions about the pre-snap look, and then I'll give you a chance to answer, and then we'll break it down. So this first example here, how would you guys run a post curl? So a post curl versus this type of zone coverage. So how would you run a post curl versus this type of zone coverage? You guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So number one, anytime that you come up to the line of scrimmage as a wide receiver, you need to have a pre-snap process. So by pre-snap process, I mean you need to identify three things. You need to identify the DB's leverage, how close or how far he is, and what type of coverage it is. So number one, I gave it away when I asked the question. It's zone coverage, right? But we come up to the line, we see that the DB is lined up outside leverage. We see that he's maybe I'd say about 10 yards off, and he's going to be in zone coverage because his eyes are to the inside, and you see how his hips and shoulders are turned. He's not squared up facing us, so it's outside shade, zone coverage, about 8 to 10 yards off. So if I have to run a post curl, the mistake that a lot of guys will make on a post curl versus this type of coverage is they'll just run the route. They won't stem their route. So if you guys said you would want to attack his leverage to widen him or attack his blind spot to widen him, then break on the post curl, that'd be correct. If you guys said just run up and attack his inside shoulder, that would be incorrect. And we're going to talk about why. So let's play this full speed. This is a great route here from Ayuk. Great job attacking his leverage, spinning the DB around, and then settling down on that curl. So remember, anytime that a DB is an outside shade, because we talk a lot about off man, we talk a lot about press man, maybe not as much time on zone, but no matter what his leverage is, his responsibilities of that leverage still do not change. Even if it's zone, even if it's off man or press man, he is still trying to prevent the outside route. And what does he probably have to the inside if he's outside leverage? He probably has help. He'd be an idiot to play zone coverage with no help over the middle. So if we just take off and go run the post curl, we're essentially running right into his help. This DB is going to get into my hip. He's going to squeeze me to the inside, and that quarterback is not going to have a window. But if we come off the line like Ayuk does here and we attack his leverage, because you see what this DB does? He's trying to keep his leverage. When he's in zone like this, he is taught, do not get beat deep to the outside. So if I can threaten him with my stem, run with speed, run with stride, good body language, that's going to get him to widen. And then when I break on that post, guess what? Now I have a bigger window for my quarterback. I was able to get separation because I sold the route correctly, but because I had a high route running IQ, you guys can create a bigger window for that quarterback to hit you. And that is the name of the game. So fellas, that's how you guys would run a post route versus this coverage. That's how you guys would run a dig route, a post curl, maybe just a regular curl. Anything inside breaking, I would suggest to run like this. Because honestly, fellas, there's a lot of information. How you make the process simpler of breaking this stuff down. Think about it like inside breaking and outside breaking routes. Because it's one or the other, right? You're either going to have an inside breaking route, outside breaking, or a fade. And you guys should think about it in those terms rather than have a different way to do it for every single route. It keeps it much simpler. So let's play this again, full speed one more time, and then we'll get to that next question. Great route there by Ayuk, getting that DB to spin around and winning on that post curl. Okay, so now, this is going to be a form of zone coverage. And so this is going to be kind of a two-part question. The first part, maybe I'm not super concerned with you guys getting correct or not, but the second part I am. So how would you guys run versus this coverage look a 10-yard out, like a 10 to 12-yard out? How would you guys run that versus this coverage? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. Okay, let's break this thing down. So first part of the question, what type of coverage is this? So number one, this coverage is a form of press bail, which is a form of zone. Press bail is something that you could see DBs use on like cover 3 or cover 4, whenever their responsibility is this like deep, like section of the field, I guess you could say. It could be a fourth or third. So they'll come down, show like it's pressed to mess with the wide receiver, and then they will bail and turn out of there. And how we know it's a press bail zone look is when this DB's bailing, his eyes are to the inside, and most likely he is going to be outside shade. So if you guys said press bail, that would be correct. If you didn't, it's okay. You just have to be able to identify this look, but it makes it simpler when you know the name. So on this 10-yard out, if you guys said attack the blind spot, then break, that would be incorrect. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. If you guys said attack the inside shoulder to get him to think fade, then slip under him, that would be correct. And here's why. So remember, it's just like the last example. Just because he's walked down and pressed bail, and just because he was in the last example outside shade and zone, but they're both outside leverage, that means they have the same responsibilities. They're trying to take away the outside route. So if you just take off and go run to that blind spot, what do you think the DB is going to do? He's going to squeeze to the outside. And then when you break on that out route, you're not going to have as much space, and that DB is going to be right on your hip. You want to give the quarterback, especially on an outside breaking route, as much room as possible. So let's play this full speed. So Jefferson does a great job of threatening the inside shoulder, breaking this thing off and giving the quarterback room to throw him open. And again, it's a tight look already. He's not cut down. It's probably to the boundary right here. So he's not cut down a crazy amount. He doesn't have a ton of space. So if you guys just take off and run to that blind spot, you're sacrificing space. Let's threaten his inside shoulder. So when I break this off, I have as much room as possible for my QB. It's a QB-friendly route. Now, again, how you can differentiate it, or how you guys can tell the difference between what to do and what not to do, think about it like outside breaking and inside breaking routes. Because remember, what was the last example? The last example was a post curl. How would you run a post curl versus press bail? You would attack his blind spot to widen him and make him think fade, slip underneath and run the post curl. You created a window. How would you run an out route? Attack that inside shoulder even when he is off coverage. You'd attack that inside shoulder and then go. So this is a textbook example here from Justin Jefferson. Let's play this again full speed one more time. Great job running that 10-yard out versus that press bail look. Okay, so now, next example here, I'm going to give this away right now, and I'm going to say that this is off-man coverage. Okay, so this is off-man coverage. How would you guys run a 10-yard out, so it's the same route as the last one, if this DB just sits there? He's not going to backpedal. He is just going to sit there. You're in the red zone. He's not going to bail. How would you guys run a 10-yard out versus that specific type of off-man coverage? You guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. Okay, let's break this thing down. So number one thing we already know, this is off-man coverage, but does his leverage responsibility change based on the type of coverage it is? Because remember, it's off-man, it's not zone. Does his leverage responsibility change? No, right? He's still responsible for protecting the outside, force everything inside to his help, and do not get beat deep to the outside. So on my route, I don't want to try to just square him up, give him a fake outside, and then go. Because if we stem him to the outside, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to keep his leverage to the outside. Very similar to the first example that we saw. His sole responsibility in life, do not give up the outside. So with my routes, you got to threaten that inside shoulder and the inside hip. Just like in the last example. Just because it was press bail doesn't mean anything changes. It's still a form of, I guess you can say, off coverage or zone type coverage. I know this is off man, but it's the same concept. But if he's just going to sit there, do you guys think you would want to just run hard at his inside shoulder and get his hips to flip? No, you would do something like a rocker step at the break. So if you guys said attack his inside shoulder and hip and use a rocker step fake to sell the post and then slip under, that would be correct. So let's play this full speed. So he comes off. Renfro does a great job coming off here, hits this rocker step, and then is able to create that space. And again, like we said, on the goal line. When we're in the red zone, don't expect the DB to bail like crazy. Right? Because if he's in the red zone, why would he be threatened by a deep fade? You're going to run out the back of the end zone. But what he is threatened on, because it's still man coverage, is probably like out like a slant or a post where that quarterback can hit it quick. So that's what I have to sell on this. So if that was your guys' thought process, that would be 100% correct. So this is a great example of Renfro. And again, fellas, when it's off man, I like this even in the middle of the field, because when it's off man, where's that DB's eye supposed to be? he's supposed to be watching my hips, right? So on a rocker step, that's a great example of selling a route with your hips, with your shoulders when you take that hard inside cut. And Renfro does such a great job of doing that. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Renfro showcasing that rocker step and creating that separation on that 10-yard out. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like an 8-week wide receiver gym and field workout schedule to follow with daily exercises and workout splits to do, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you on that. I'll see you guys next time.